For many centuries, the countries of the world were ruled by hereditary estate and inheritance. But this situation changed with the France Revolution. After this revolution, France did not need a king. The France are working to the former king to the guillotine. Amidst all this, a certain process embarked on a journey of his own. It was Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon, who came to fore with the France Revolution, finally stopped by coming to the empire of France. Not only that, he also managed to separate the dominance of France throughout Europe. Today's video is about a special character. Stay with us.
Napoleon Bonaparte, known as the Child of the Revolution, was born on August 15, 1769 AD in the French-occupied island of Corsica. His father was Carlo Maria di Bonaparte, a lawyer by profession, and his mother was Maria Letizia Ramolino. Born of these Italian parents, Napoleon could handle French well. After completing his basic education from the French College Auditum, Napoleon entered the military college in Brienne, studied there for 5 years and joined the military academy in Paris. Since Napoleon came from a rather poor family, the children of other French allied families who were educated in those schools have humiliated him. After his father's death from stomach cancer in 1785, he took on the burden of the family and joined the service as a second lieutenant in the French artillery. Napoleon returned to Corsica, but struggles began in Corsica. Therefore, Napoleon and his mother were forced to leave Corsica and return to France due to their pro-French actions. With the French Revolution, the traditional government of France collapsed. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Napoleon expressed support for the Jacobins, who were at the forefront of the revolution as the left-wing party. In 1792, the French Revolution ended successfully, and in 1793, the King Louis XVI was assassinated. Although France was declared a republic, Maximilien Robespierre, who were elected as the representative of the people, showed the characteristics of being a dictator as no one thought. After the defeat of Maximilien Robespierre, France was ruled by an executive committee for a short time, and Napoleon managed to develop a good relationship with them. Because of this, he was named the commander of the army, internal affairs, and became a trusted military advisor to the government. In 1796, the army of Italy, then a client country of France, came under the command of Napoleon. 30,000 malnourished men with low morale were whipped into shape by the young commander and were led to the victories against Austria. In the process, the Italian military greatly expanded the French border. The Austrian emperor had to ask for peace in the face of the victory of the Napoleon against the Austrians. On March 9, 1796, Napoleon married Josephine the Baconese, widow of the General Alexander the Boharis, with whom she had 2 children of her own. In 1799, Napoleon overthrew the board of directors in Corp. The directory was replaced with a 3-member consulate, and Napoleon became first consul, making him France's leading political figure. In June 1800, at the Battle of Marengo, Napoleon's forces defeated one of the France's eternal enemies, the Austrians. They were driven out of Italy. This victory helped consolidate Napoleon's power as a first consul. Additionally, with the Treaty of Amiens in 1802, the war-weary British made peace with the French. In 1802, a constitutional amendment made Napoleon's first consul for life. Finally, the people who thought that they have got a person capable of bringing stability to France approve all these activities of Napoleon. 2 years later, in 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of France in a lavish ceremony at the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. The Pope also came to perform the religious rituals there. From 1803 to 1815, France was engaged in the Napoleonic Wars. In 1803, partly as a means of raising funds for future wars, Napoleon sold the French territory of Louisiana in North America to newly independent United States for $15 million. In October 1805, the British wiped out Napoleon's fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar. However, in December of that same year, Napoleon achieved what is considered to be one of his greatest victories of the Battle of Austerlitz, in which his army defeated the Austrians and Russians. The victory resulted in the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire and the creation of the Confederation of the Rhine. In 1809, after Napoleon had no offspring of his own with Empress Josephine, he had their marriage annulled so he could find a new wife and produce an heir. In 1810, he wed Mary Louise, the daughter of the Emperor of Austria. The following year, she gave birth to their son, Napoleon Francois Joseph Charles Bonaparte, who became known as Napoleon II and was given the title King of Rome. Napoleon led a massive army of 600,000 men into Russia in the summer of 1812. They entered the city of Moscow, but the Russians had already left the city and fled. To make matters worse, winter came to Russia. A large part of Napoleon's army was decimated by starvation and extreme cold, and they were forced to retreat quickly. Of Napoleon's 600,000 troops who began the campaign, only an estimated 100,000 made it out of Russia. Napoleon's enemies took full advantage of this opportunity. Spain revolted against Napoleon. In 1830, the Battle of Leipzig took place. There, Napoleon's forces were defeated by a coalition that included Austrians, Prussians, Russians, and Swedish forces. On April 6, 1814, Napoleon, in his mid-40s, was forced to abdicate the throne. With the Treaty of Fontainebleau, he was exiled to the Mediterranean island of Elba off the coast of Italy. On February 26, 1815, after less than a year in exile, Napoleon fled Elba and sailed for mainland France with more than 1,000 supporters. On March 20th, he returned to Paris, where he was received with cheers. The new king, Louis XVIII, fled. Napoleon began what became known as his 100 Days Campaign. On June 18, 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo near Brussels, the British, aided by the Prussians, crushed in French. On June 22, 1815, Napoleon was once again forced to abdicate. In October 1815, Napoleon was exiled to the remote, British-controlled island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. He died there on May 5, 1821, aged 51. Unknown stories about Emperor Napoleon. Number 1. Napoleon has written a love story. Napoleon wrote a love story called Prison at Eugenie in 1795 when he was 26 years old. It is said that this novel, written in French, has not become so famous because he was not the French emperor at that time. Number 2. Napoleon has worked the street in disguise. Napoleon was very interested in knowing what his people's ideology was about him. He used a great trick for it. He worked the street in disguise at night, talked to people who met to him by chance. Number 3. Napoleon was afraid of cats. Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, Mussolini, Hitler, Napoleon are reputed to have suffered from pyrophobia, the fear of cats. It is even said that his fear was caused by a feral cat attack when he was a baby. Number 4. Napoleon discovered the Rosetta Stone. Now held in the British Museum in London, the Rosetta Stone is granite slab covered in the string. Hieroglyphic Egyptian, Demotic Egyptian and the ancient Greek. It played a vital part in the deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphs and has long been considered the hugely important artifact. Less well known is the fact that it was discovered by Napoleon's soldiers during the Egyptian campaign in 1799. Number 5. Napoleon once tried to commit suicide. It is said that Napoleon always carried a vial of poison which he attached to a cord which he wore around his neck. Apparently, after his exile to Elba, he finally took the poison in 1814, but by then it had lost its potency and managed to make him terribly ill. Number 6. Napoleon was not so short. Many say that Napoleon Bonaparte was a very short person. This fact has become public because of the note made by the doctor who performed the autopsy after Napoleon's death. At the time of his death, Napoleon measured 5 feet 2 inches in French units, the equivalent of the 5 feet 6.5 inches in modern measurement units, which was decently average height at the time. Indeed, the term Napoleon complex, used to characterize short, overly aggressive people, is conceptually bound to his famously diminutive stature. Number 7. The lady who came to Napoleon's bedchamber. Napoleon, who was a skilled warrior, had a high taste. So Napoleon used a famous painting in the Louvre Museum in France to decorate his bedroom. That is the Mona Lisa painting. When the Napoleonic regime ended, brought back its usual abode, the Louvre Museum. Number 8. Napoleon's first wife, Josephine Bonaparte, narrowly avoided the guillotine. Josephine, Napoleon's first wife, was previously married to Alexander the Boharis, an aristocrat who was guillotined during the Reign of Terror. Josephine was also imprisoned and scheduled for excavation before being released 5 days later when the Reign of Terror architect Robespierre was himself guillotined. Number 9. Napoleon was stone deaf. Apparently, one of Napoleon's least endearing habits was his penchant for singing or humming or mumbling whenever he became agitated. Unfortunately, Payne accounts suggested that his singing voice was distinctly unmusical. Number 10. The cause of Napoleon's death remains a mystery. Napoleon died at the age of 51 on the island of St. Helena after suffering from stomach cancer. But for a long time, many have believed that Napoleon Bonaparte died in a conspiracy. The factor they presented for that was the very high amount of arsenic contained in Napoleon's hair. But recent research has proven that this high amount of arsenic contained in the hair was due to a type of dye